you were shit at football anyway. Why don't you go study art and design, more specifically graphic design? And my reply was, what the fuck is graphic design? But if it wasn't for his impact in that point in my life and being there for me and allowing me to be me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. 100% I wouldn't be.
On this week's Engaging Marketeer, I am speaking with Craig Black. Craig is a visual artist who's worked with some huge brands such as Porsche and his beloved Rangers football club. But Craig was a professional footballer who didn't get the game time that he wanted and left football disillusioned with the sport. But thanks to a supportive art teacher, got into the world of art once again and is now, I think it's safe to say, one of the world's leading visual artists out of Scotland. So let's see what happened with Craig. Let's see what he's got planned for the future. And let's have a look at some of the brands that he's worked with. In your youth, you were a professional footballer. So tell us, is that something that you always wanted to happen, or and how did that come about?
Definitely. Like, growing up, football was everything to most Scottish young lads. And that's all I ever did when I was younger. You know what it's like, across the park, playing football. Imagine I was Zidane or the Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo back in the day.
Oh, you mean Brazilian Ronaldo, not fake Ronaldo.
The real Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And I always dreamed about becoming a professional. And I fortunately got to do that in very young age. I was in my contract when I was like 15 or 16 years old. And it was for Greenock Morton Football Club, which is my local club. And yes, I kind of came up from the youth system there, and they gave me the opportunity. They wanted to sign me early doors. But the thing is, when I was at 15 or 16, I was still in high school. So I was up in Scotland. I was in the last year, sixth year. I don't know what I was in England. I can't remember the equivalent. But in the last year of high school, and they basically wanted to take me out of school to become a full-time footballer. But there was something in me that says I want to continue on and study art and design. And fortunately, my mum and my art teacher, Mr. Murray, who is a huge inspiration to me, he's still a big part of my life, actually. He stays in the same town as me. He still tells me off. I should be calling him Paul, but I don't, because it's too awkward. I still call him Mr. Murray. But the thing is, he noticed something in me way back. Now, to give you an idea of who I was back then, like, I was the boy wonder from the local town who's going to go on, play for whoever kind of thing and make a career out of it. And everyone, it was the hype and all that stuff. And you get caught in that. But he noticed I had that talent in art. And I kind of knew it myself. And the reason I knew it myself is because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it took my mind away from football. And it was the only thing I ever did that. And then when growing up, when I wasn't playing football, I was either drawing football boots, making badges, customizing football kits, typography, all that stuff. So subliminally, like, kind of doing that. So there was a special agreement at the time, which was I would go train with so we made a special agreement with the club and the high school, which was odd back then. It wasn't a thing, but I was essentially training with the first team in the morning, and then in the afternoons I would go back and study art and design with my art teacher. But the thing is, he had his whole curriculum. He had his other class over there, so I was on the other side on my own, trying to do this course, and he would give me 5 minutes, and it was very direct, brutal feedback. And the way that we got on, it was a perfect remedy for what I needed at that time in my life as well. So to give you an idea, it'd be like, Craig, why the fuck are you, sorry for swearing, but why the fuck?
That's like, you swear away, you swear away.
That's good, I'm happy to hear that. Why the fuck did you do that? You should do it like this. And I'm like, well, this is my reasoning, blah, blah, blah. Underline that he's pushing me, pushing my buttons. He's trying to get me to do further and progress. And it definitely worked. It definitely worked, even though sometimes I come away going, asshole, all that stuff. And he knows this, by the way. He'll probably tune in and shout at me. But anyways, so after that first year, I graduated with advanced higher art, and then I went and played football for 4 or 5 years at Greenock Morton. And I was like, right, I'm going to become a professional footballer now. This isn't, but the thing is, to all the listeners, Green and Morton's in the Championship in Scotland, so it's like the lower leagues. It's nothing really exciting. But it became a very, very frustrating time for me. Basically, no matter how well I played, no matter how well I did in training, no matter what I did, it just wasn't. I wasn't getting the opportunities. And even when I was playing in the first team, and I would play every single time I played really well, and I'd think to myself, well, at least I'm going to be on the bench for next week or whatever. I wouldn't even get a strip. I'd be in the stand. And this was a recurring theme every single year because clubs would come in because I was a good talent at that time. Other clubs would want to try and buy me or get me on loan, but the club, Morton, would say no because he's too good, but I'm not good enough to play in the first team. So I was stuck in this conundrum of just being sat in the stands, basically on my own, watching this game. And year after year, it was just an endless cycle. And it was so frustrating. And it got to the point I actually hated football. It got me so down. And it was so frustrating because I put all my heart and soul into it and I tried. And I always look back, and the frustrating thing is I'm still in my hometown. And I'll still get fans going up to me going like, oh, Craig Black, you're a brilliant footballer. Like, it was so frustrating how you never got that opportunity. Like, when you did play, you were brilliant, and it just never worked out. And so what happened was 4 or 5 years after playing professional, I had offers to stay at the club. I had offers to go to other clubs. But I decided to just step away. I had enough. It really, really wore me down to a point I was like, I hate this. So the club was shocked, to be honest. They were actually like, you don't want to play football anymore? And I was like, nah. I was like, I'm done. I'm mentally done here. And I was 21, 22 at the time.
Well, that's young to walk away from it.
Exactly. So I went from 15 to 21. So that's around about that age, kind of grab. It was a really mentally challenging time, having to deal with that. So yeah, I decided I'm going to step away. And then on the day I decided to turn the contract down, I went to the pub, which is a good place to go, to bring your spirits up. And the first person I met was my art teacher from 5-6 years ago. And I've not seen him. I've not seen him in years. And he starts chatting away. He's like, how's life? And I've just unloaded everything that I've just spoke about. And he said these wise words to me. He says, Craig, you were shit at football anyway. Why don't you go study art and design, more specifically graphic design? And my reply was, what the fuck is graphic design? And then he told me a little bit about it. He says, I've got a friend who's a lecturer at a college in Glasgow. I'll get you in for an interview next week. And I was like, I've not done any work for 5 years. I've got nothing. I've not even got a portfolio. And he says, come to my house tomorrow. I've got something to show you. I was like, all right, fine, cool. No idea what he's talking about. So the next day, I've got a hangover, head up, and I knock on his door. And I was like, what's happening? And he walks out, and he's got my portfolio from 5 years ago.
Wow.
And he says, it's quite a talk, it's quite emotional. And I always believed that you'd need this one day. That's why I've kept it all these years. And I was like, burst into tears on his doorstep. Well, no, I was actually in his living room. Burst into tears. And then I took that portfolio, went to the college like a few days later, and I explained, like, I've not done anything in 5 years. And I remember the lecturer looking at 2 pieces of work, and he's like, you're in. And he's like, I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I see the talent. I see the more, and I see in you what you're capable of doing, your personality and stuff. And I remember doing the first college course in graphic design, and I instantly fell in love with the world of creativity. It opened my eyes up to a whole new world. And I was like, you could do this, you could do that, in so many different avenues. I absolutely loved it. And I felt this sense of happiness, a real joy. And it was like I was that boy again in my bedroom, colouring in football strips and learning about football badges. And because that was graphic design, and that was part of art and stuff. And then I decided, like I said, I stepped away from football, and then I pursued a career in graphic design, which was a hell of a journey for myself, because I ended up specialising, running my independent studio, doing typography and lettering. So let me go back. I graduated and then I went to London, worked for agencies for about 2.5 years. But in the background, I started, I had this idea of running my own business. That's all I ever wanted to do was go out on my own and do typography. Because going way back, see when I was a fan, I used to go to Rangers all the time. Rangers football club's my team, and I used to go to Ibrox. And I remember Gaza, Alan McCoy's, and I used to see their names on the back of shirts. And I always thought, who creates that type stuff? Who creates that? Never known what typography was. Like back in the day, it always sat with me. And I remember in that first day in college, the lecturer told me that and says it's called typography. And I was like, whoa, what? And that was me. I was like, I'm going to specialise in this field. And then one day I'm going to do the typeface for Rangers. That was my internal goal. And that was the ultimate dream for me at that point in doing typography. So worked for agencies for 2.5 years. And in background, I was perfecting my craft of type and lettering. Went out on my own, no idea how to run a business, but I managed by hook or crook do this business, and I ended up collaborating with some of the biggest brands in the world, creating word marks, doing lettering stuff. And then it ultimately led to creating the typeface for Rangers Football Club.
Well, you did it. You achieved the goal.
Achieved the goal. So that was, I don't know, 7 years ago. Unbelievable moment. Literally, like, meant so much to not only me, but my family and friends. Like, so much to give you perspective here. Like, I know I'm just rabbiting on, so bear with me.
That's all right. You rabbit away.
My brother and my dad are plumbers, so they have no idea about the world of creativity. They're massive Rangers fans. So this is the point where they would understand what I do. And I remember getting this project, and I couldn't tell anyone for a year, or I think it was almost 2 years. I had to be like quiet about it, and I was desperate to tell them because of the connection. And then when it launched, it was such an emotional roller coaster, and it was met with so much positivity from all the fans across the world and the creative industry as well, and especially my brother and my dad. And my brother's a season ticket holder, and he goes to games now, and the types everywhere. You see it in every touch point across the stadium, and he'll say to a random supporter beside them, saying, see that type that's on that banner? Like, my wee brother did that. Hey, guys, what are you talking about? No idea, but that sense of pride and connection was really special. And then when that project released, it done really well, and I actually had offers from other Premier League clubs to do their typeface and La Liga clubs, which was amazing as a football fan doing type, but I had zero interest because Rangers was the pinnacle.
So you picked the Rangers. You're not interested in doing other clubs because what's the point?
Exactly. What is the point? Because it sounds crazy, but it meant so much to me, and it would just. I put my heart and soul into that project. I've never been so invested emotionally, mentally, even physically. Do you know what I mean? Putting this together, and I did it, and then that was a turning point of like, I need to evolve here as a creative, which then led me to doing what I'm doing today, which has become a visual artist, and that is just like a full circle moment because doing what I'm doing now is what I was doing when I was a kid, like creating football stuff, but I was using paint and I was building stuff. And now I'm getting to do that as living. So I transferred from doing typography into visual artist. And then in the past 4 years, my whole world's changed by becoming an artist. And my wife's joined the business as managing director. And she's essentially the boss of my life now. And tell me what to do all the time. And we've got a little girl, Olivia.
That's why you're on this podcast. She told you to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Told what to do. And we've got a little girl, Olivia, and we fortunately travelled the world in working with some of the biggest brands in the world, doing these amazing immersive experiences, creating artworks for launch activations and bespoke products, and working in galleries, and everything that I've dreamed about has all happened. So that's an overview of my life. And you just asked about football, didn't you?
Whenever you see people interviewed and they have jobs that you think they must be loving what they do, like rock stars, musicians, artists, and you ask them, what would you rather be, or what would you be if you weren't doing what you're doing now, almost every single one of them without fail will say footballer.
Yeah.
I want to be a footballer. I wish I was able to play for Rangers, or I wish I was able to play for Man United. Is there any point where you look back and you think, why didn't it quite work out?
No, I don't, because I gave my heart and soul to the game. I tried. I put everything on the field. Every single training session, I gave my all. And I'm a big believer in that. It's the way I've been instilled as a young lad to work hard and to try. And there's only so much I could possibly do. If a manager doesn't pick me, and the manager at the time just didn't like me for whatever reason, and I tried, and then I had other offers and stuff like that. And yeah, there is maybe a part of me that would love to have seen if it went any further, but I wasn't happy. And I think that happiness is the key to life, and key to success and happiness is the key thing is happiness. And I was miserable, and for about 4 or 5 years, and I kept asking myself, why do I feel like this? Do I go on loan? When I went on loan, I ended up eventually getting a loan deal at a club, and it was just I was playing. It wasn't enjoyable. It's not like it's totally. I don't. It sounds weird, and I don't want to be like. It just wasn't a great experience, and it wasn't what I dreamed about when I was younger. Maybe if I was in the Premier League playing week in week out, it might be a different game. It might be feeling different, but I've got friends who have been professionals who played for a lot more games than I have, and some of them can't stand watching football, can't stand being a part of it. They've seen it as a job, and you don't say that though, because that was the culture back then. But now but it just no matter what, I didn't even enjoy going to training. It was just at that point. But the weird thing about it is what I'm doing today is leading to the places where I could only dream about. So for me, being an artist, like I've been to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. I was doing live art performances in front of all the best players in the world, doing my thing. No one in the world's doing my thing. I've been to the Champions League final when I was making artworks for there. I made the Champions League ball. I worked at the Premier League, doing the thing that I've created in this town of in the west coast of Scotland. And for me, that's got so much more value to it because it was never there before, and I created it, and it's managed to interest these biggest football and brands, and I got to play on their platform in my own way. So that's my way of playing the game again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Art and football are both obviously skill-based. They're talent-based. You can't, if you don't have the talent, you can't train to be an artist. You can't train to be a footballer. You need that talent. Do you know how lucky you are to have the skill to do both?
I'll be honest, I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work and perfecting your craft. So what people don't know, when I was working in agencies, when I first started my career for 2.5 years, every evening, every weekend, I'd be practicing typography and lettering. I mean, I'd be picking paper, drawing, working on my craft. 1 hour a night, I dedicated 1 hour a night between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m, Monday to Friday, and then the weekends I'd devote 5 hours. You accumulate all those hours over a period of 2 years, it's a lot of hours, and then I was ready to go out. So using that formula, I know works for me personally. So when I became the artist, what people don't know is 2 years prior, that's when I started. So I was in the background perfecting my craft of acrylic fusion, and I was terrible, absolutely terrible, and figuring out what this acrylic fusion is. And to anyone who's listening, like, acrylic fusion is essentially acrylic paints mixed together to create interesting and mesmerising effects. And basically anything I can get my hands on, I'll pour paint on anything I can. And in that 2 year period, I was practicing because I was building up to this moment. I knew this is where I wanted to be. I'm a big believer in manifestation and visualization, and I always done this throughout my whole life. Rangers typeface, say that out loud, doing all these things, becoming an artist. I'm going to go to the World Cup. I'm going to work with Porsche. I'm going to go to Champions League final. I'm going to work with the NFL, NBA. I said this like 2 years ago. People thought you're like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I'm like, this is going to happen. And it has happened. It has happened because of that. But the reason, it's not you just think about it. You need to put it in action. So I had to make sure that I was ready for when those moments came. Hence that 2-year period that most people don't do now, because we're in a world of instantaneous. Like, if you get an idea, boom, I need to launch now. I need to get this done. I'm ready. And the reality is, sometimes you are ready, but a lot of people aren't ready. But they don't allow themselves time to work on their craft. So that 2-year period in the background, only my wife knew I was painting. Because at first I was like, what am I'm trying to figure this out. What is this? And then it was a hook. And I'll tell you the story, actually, what inspired Acrylic Fusion. It was, my wife came home one day and she had a pair of gym leggings on, had a crazy pattern on them. And she starts talking to me and I totally blank out from what she's saying. I just keep staring at her legs. And I say, how does someone create that pattern on those gym leggings? And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And I'm like, go on to YouTube and you type in paint mixing, paint pouring. You know how you watch one video, leads to another, leads to another. I was in this wormhole. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This looks amazing. I'm going to go do this. I literally ran out of my house and I went to a craft store and I got like acrylic paints, got all the like rudimentary stuff that I had to do some paint pouring. I got a little canvas, set up like an old iPhone on a tripod, and I thought, right, I'm going to try this. And I created this artwork, and at that time it was very instantaneous in terms of the artwork and process of it, but there's a lot of problem solving in that moment, because once it's done, it's done. You can't like go back and fix it like hours later and affects it. But I loved it. I loved that challenge, and I was like, this is it. I was like, this is the thing I want to do. And then I kept myself in the background for 2 years. So going back to your question about luck, I don't believe in luck. I believe that hard work creates the opportunities. And then it may look like luck, but I don't. It certainly opens the door to creating these windows of opportunity.
So in other words, you sort of took a footballer's attitude towards it. With the football, you'd spend hours and hours on the training field. And with art, you're spending hours and hours practicing in order to do it. Was there ever any... Because football's obviously a talent, and somebody is able to tell you, you're not good enough for the first team. I'm not putting you in, I'm leaving you out for whatever reason that is. Art is also subjective. Did you not have any point where you're worrying that I'm putting myself out there again for someone potentially to tell me I'm not good enough to do this?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But over the years experience, you need to grow a thick skin. For me, being in the football world, I definitely developed that. Coming into this world, I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to put myself out to the world. And I know it may be one person, two person, whoever will be attracted to what I do. And they'll be attracted to who I am as a person. There'll be some people who don't like me. Fine. Go live your life. Delete me. Don't follow me. Whatever. But I always believe if you put something out into the world, the people who like it will be attracted to it, and it will open opportunities. So I never held back in any way. As soon as I did an artwork or had an idea or whatever I would do, I would execute it, get out the door, showcase it to the world. Yeah, maybe it got 2 likes on Instagram. I'm like, fuck it, keep going. And it does, and especially in a world where social media plays a huge part in every person's life, and people can be disgruntled by getting maybe 5 likes or whatever, but you just never know who can see it. And I can countless opportunities that have came my way is because someone from one brand seen a project I did with another brand, or not even another brand. Sometimes I so I'm a big believer in self-initiated work. So my whole career was started on. You can see these footballs behind me. Yeah. Those are I'll never ever sell them, because that was a project that changed my life, and that was a self-initiated project, which was showing how my acrylic technique can create a football based on colours of a country participating at Euros, and I created a huge amount of content on it. showing the process, imagery, video, all that stuff. But I was purposely showing it in the format of how it could influence a brand, i.e. UEFA kind of thing. And from that, I put it out to the world going, this is what I'm doing now. Because I believe in it. If you don't believe in yourself, then how can you expect anyone to believe in you? Yeah. And that was just the mindset I've always had, and just had to go forward with it. But life takes you on weird journeys, and you've got to learn from those experiences and use it to your advantage, especially the negative moments and the failures and stuff like that. Like I use it to my advantage and learn from it to make sure I gain a lot from it and go, you know what, I don't want to feel like that ever again. So I'll push forward and I'll create a whole new world for myself. And that's exactly what I do.
How much do you think you owe to your art teacher? Because I mentioned in email correspondence that I went to art school, but my art teacher, my GCSE art teacher, Mr. Lawton, I'm going to name him, he told me, don't do art at A-level, you're not good enough. He was quite blunt. Don't do it at A-level, you're not good enough. I did it at A-level. I went on and did it for an art diploma course, got a distinction, and then went to film school doing partly animation as well. And now I own a web design agency. So I do it. Mr. Lawton, up yours. So I didn't have a supportive art teacher.
Yeah.
You did. Someone who absolutely believed in you and, as you say, kept your portfolio for years later on the off chance you were going to need it. How much of your career now is owed to him?
A huge part, but I'll tell you one thing. He never once told me I'd become an artist or go to art school. He never said that to me once. Never at any point. He allowed me to be me, and I was kind of emotional saying that. He allowed me to be me, and that was the most important thing, to express myself, because it allowed me to probably get my frustrations out as well. And doing art, and I was getting an emotional thing, but he never put any pressure on me at all, because everyone was like, "Oh, Craig's going to be a footballer and stuff like that." But he clearly seen something in me, and I think the difference. And I remember it was like 7 or 8 of us in the course. I didn't actually see the other 7 other students, but I was like middle of the road, probably the bottom end of that classroom in terms of getting the results. And I scraped by getting my advanced higher art. But the difference between me and them is determination and hard work. And that's why I'm the visual artist today. And a lot of them are not even in the creative industries, doing what they're doing. But if it wasn't for his impact in that point in my life and being there for me and allowing me to be me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. 100% I wouldn't be. But my mum, I'm going to say my mum as well, like she was a massive influence in me in terms of letting me be creative, and especially at the early age, and allowing me that platform. And that's exactly what we do for our little girl right now. She's like, she keeps saying she wants to become an artist like Daddy, and that means the world to me. I'm never going to force it on her, maybe a little tiny bit, but we're allowing her to be creative, whether it's painting or whether it's crafting or model clay stuff, Lego, all that stuff like that. We're giving her like all that access, and more so open her eyes to a world of creativity, because there's so many tangible things you can do, and it's such a fun industry. It's such a fun place to be, and you meet amazing people as well, very like-minded people all across the world. And I think and I'm opening her eyes up to that, and I think being able to produce that and do that for a little girl is special. And that's something I've been working on for years before Olivia was born, was to create this lifestyle that we can accommodate that. But it all goes back to my youth and that my teacher being there for me. And I'm trying to do the same for my little girl.
It's interesting you said that you were in the bottom half, barely scraping through your qualification. Mm-hmm. I think it was Damien Hirst famously failed art at either A-level or a diploma, but he failed it. Is something that's so creative and, again, so subjective, is it properly graded, or are education authorities actually equipped to grade people on art and then give those qualifications?
Well, the way that I got graded was my drawings, my artwork was of high standard, but my writing and my thesis and all that essay nonsense was very poor. That's what got my grades down. That was what it was.
Okay.
And I've never, ever used that at all. Never in my wildest dreams. So I think it's a lot of bullshit, to be honest. I think it's about, obviously there's an element of design strategy or whatever it may be, but talking about art history and nurses, like I was 15, 16 years old, all I wanted to do was kick a ball and paint, you know what I mean? And that's why I brought my grades down, because the other ones were maybe smarter than me, but they didn't, like I said before, they didn't have the determination and hard work to warrant it. Because I knew I was like, I've got something here and I need to work on it. I was very rough. Do you know what I mean? I was very rough. Even today, like I'm constantly working on my craft. 1% every single day. I could do a football now and it'd be so much better compared to 4 years ago. I would like to think so. I better be. But that's a philosophy of just willing to learn and stuff like that as well. And I don't think a lot of people allow themselves to do that. They want to do it. They want to have the finished product now, and they're not giving themselves time to do it. Yeah.
So you mentioned you've worked with quite a lot of high-profile brands, Porsche being one of them. A lot of times when you work with big brands like that, they've got very strict guidelines on what you can and can't do with the brand. How restrictive is it when you're working with a big company like that?
I'll be honest, it's the absolute opposite.
Is it?
It's been crazy. It's been so crazy. So to give you perspective, so when I was a designer, I had to present to them, try and use a colour code, the brand guidelines, all that stuff. You had to work within this parameter, da. See, now I'm the artist. It's funny because some of the brands are presenting to me now. Craig, we want you. We want you to make an impact on our brand. Go do. Honestly, we get some clients come to us. Craig, we just want you to go do your thing on whatever our product might be. Could you? Maybe the only thing I'm trying on the top of my head. Some of the things that maybe come by is maybe working to the brand color palette or something like. Can you maybe use purple? Can you maybe use blue? And I'm like, I expect we'll figure it out. Yeah, definitely. But most of the time they will let me be creative because they don't want to stifle the creative process of an artist. To let me express myself of how I can know that I can make an impact. And it's been incredibly refreshing, especially the bigger brands, the biggest global brands. They're honestly the most, for me, and only my experience has been the more flexible and most exciting and nice people to work with, honestly. Perception, beforehand, I would have thought, oh, you need to just use this and do that. No, it's very much, Craig, what can you bring to the table? We love what you do. We've got this brand activation going on over here in this country. What can you do for us that could ignite it? And I'm like, oh, maybe I could paint on this. Yeah, we could do that. And I'm like, brilliant. I better learn how to paint on a helmet or a car or something. And that's the model has happened. And by working with brands, like it's kind of side tangent here, but when I started the business, like I purposely went for the brands right away because of my past experience of being in the design world, knowing how brands would work, but also from a marketing point of view, from an art point of view, knowing that how art can make an impact on brands. So I knew what I could do to influence these big brands and stuff like that. So that was my target. And then I'm very, very, very fortunate that it's continued on ever since. And on the flip side of that is it's opened the doors to the fine art world where I had zero contacts in before. I had no idea how to get into it. Then I've been all self-taught. I've never had an art kind of, the only thing art background I had was back in high school, like I mentioned. And that was the only art I had. And I've always like graphic design and stuff similar to that. But other than that, I was self-taught. But because of the brand reputation and because my brand has risen throughout the years, the fine art world are going, who's this guy? This works pretty awesome. That can translate into our gallery. Let's get him in here. And like last year, we were in Sydney. I'm going to New York in a few weeks' time to do another gallery exhibition over there. Brilliant, unbelievable. But I'm so proud of going for it in the way that I wanted to do it, rather than looking at a blueprint of someone else. I've created my own blueprint, and I can see there's people, and constantly getting people asking me, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I'm more than happy to share. I'm a big believer in sharing and helping other people. But it's constantly evolving and figuring things out, and that's the beauty about it. The journey's just as important as the final destination.
You say you're going to New York for a gallery exhibition. That's a gallery of your work exclusively, is it? Or is there other artists involved as well?
Actually, it's a very interesting collaboration I've got going on. It's a choreographer, a New York-based choreographer called Abdul Latif, who has challenged me to basically pour acrylic fusion on the physical human form of dancers. So there'll be people dancing, and I'm going to be pouring acrylic fusion on body forms, and they're going to be moving and stuff like that to an orchestra and a jazz band, in this gallery in Tribeca in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
So, and what was it? He seen me pour paint on an American football, and then he got to know my personality and thought, I can see something here. And then I personally love being put in my comfort zone. Like when I'm in outside my comfort zone, and I'm like, oh shit, can I do this? I get this like adrenaline rush and go, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do this, and it's way out of my comfort zone. But I'm so excited because I'm like, I've got no idea how it's going to go, where it's going to go, because where the paint's going to go. But
so for something like that, do you do like a trial run first? Have you done practice at it, or are you just going to do it for the first time and think, well, anything could happen?
You know what's happening? So I'm flying in. This is what's happening. I'm flying to Mexico for a project there for 5 days, and then I go from Mexico into New York on the night before. So the event is on the evening time. So during the day, we're going to have like the dancers are like doing their thing, and I'm going to kid on them, like pouring paint on them. So on the night, that is when it's going to happen, and that's when I'm going to just figure it out. And that's where I love the challenge, because one, you have no idea, it's a mystery, and that's what intrigues a lot of people. Like no one knows what the final result will be. I don't know what it is. I can visualize it to a high extent, but the paint may fall a different way than I expected. The colours may blend differently. But I know I'll achieve it, because, you know why? Because I spent so many hours working on my craft. Was it the 10,000 hours on your craft? Because Abdul said to me, he's like, should you not fly in earlier to do this? And I said, well, my schedule doesn't allow it, for starters. But also, like, I believe in myself enough that I will get this over the line, whatever it would be. And this is just a taster. This could go massive. This is the whole point. This is a taster session to a private event to show this kind of performance, immersive experience, totally new to the world, could go on a global stage. And that's what, so.
Oh yeah. So are you thinking something like Vegas or Cirque du Soleil?
Exactly that. That's where I've got aspiration. Why not? Why not? Sounds crazy from a guy sitting in Greenock in the Inverclyde in the west coast of Scotland saying these things, but that mindset has been the thing that's driving me through my whole career and my whole life. That's why I've been managed to work with these brands and these amazing and wonderful opportunities. It's willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because you never know where it could lead to, but putting yourself out there, that's the thing. And especially being Scottish and probably British as well, like, there's a situation where we don't tend to put ourselves out there because of the fear of being seen as full of shit or getting knocked off your perch, your big time. And especially where I'm from, and the friends that I've got and the family I've got will always keep me on the ground, level-headed. But in the same time, I'm like, why can't this guy from a small town in Scotland work with the global brands and do these amazing opportunities? Why has it got to be someone from New York? Why has it got to be someone from the big cities? Why has it got to be someone who's from a wealthier background? Why not me? And that's what's always driving me, always pushing me on to explore and see what's out there in the world. And what, like I said before, I'm putting stuff into the world, and people are gravitating towards it. The people who are like-minded, who like what I'm doing, are gravitating towards it. And then with that, opportunities occur. But no one's going to find you unless you put yourself out there. That's the difference. And yes, you get, like I mentioned it before, you get negativity. You get people who complain like, "Oh, that looks shit. It looks easy what you do." I'm like, try it. You try to do what I do. And I've seen it countless times. YouTubers, all that stuff, try and do what I do, and they can't do it. My wife's, I'll give it, you know what, I'm going to put my wife in it right now. I remember my wife, Ali, it must have been about 2 years ago. And she's like, Craig, I reckon I could do this. I'm like, really? Like, honestly, I'll set up the paints for you. You go do your thing. She's like, I've washed you enough. I can do this. And she put all the paints together. And I think it was a football disaster. Absolute disaster. Nowhere near. And she's like, I'll shut up now. You make it look easy. And I was like, you know why? It's because I put that 10,000 hours of craft into it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. It's like when David Beckham crosses a ball. It's because he's done it for hundreds of hours each week on the training pitch. That's why he's able to do it.
It's so weird how you said that there, because that was one of my inspirations.
Beckham,
because he trained excessively after training. I used to do it. So when I used to play, I used to train. I always stayed back, and I used to hit free kicks and practice my passing, like just hitting the crossbar, boom, boom, boom. Kept doing it, just bag of balls for an hour after training every single day. And that, you know how I mentioned earlier on, I spent an hour every night after work doing that. Stayed with me ever since. Ever since. I kept doing it, to the point where it's second nature. And the thing is now, I do these live art performances, right? And it started off in front of like my wife and my mum, right? Just two people. And now I can do it in front of, and then you grow, you do it in front of 10 people, 20. You get to the point now where I'm doing it in front of thousands of people, big on screens at the same time, all those kind of things. And the thing is, mentally, and when that moment comes, I'm in the exact same mental place, because I'm in the zone. Regardless of how many people are watching me or doing my thing, I don't get nervous, because at the end of the day, I've put my craft into this. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm like, I'm here. This company have taken me here. This brand's taken me here. I've got this platform. There's this audience who are wanting this. I'm going to deliver. Just exactly as a footballer, you've got that big stage. It's time to deliver. And I always say to myself, time to deliver, Craig. Take a big deep breath and go for it. And I'll go in the zone. And people, what has been strange is when I start painting and doing my thing, regardless of the object, the way that I move, it sounds weird, but the way that I move and the way around the objects and I pour paint and stuff, that's part of the performance as well. And I didn't realise that. I thought it was just me doing my thing, just pouring paint on stuff. But it's all part of the experience.
So do you consider yourself more of a performance artist then? Because there's a big difference between somebody that sits behind a computer working on typography for hours and hours and hours, a bit of an introvert, doesn't want to be mingling with other people, to someone that gets on a stage and does a performance art in front of thousands of people.
I would say I'm straddling the lines of it, I would say. Because I still love creating artworks in the studio, different situations. It's all part of the repertoire here. Because what we do is, we don't just create a nice, we can create a nice football, for instance. But what we do with that is, we give so much more value. So whether our client is saying, right, we want you to create a football, Craig, I'm like, right, great. What we can do is a marketing campaign and a social media campaign where we show the process. So we'll bring the camera crew. I've got a videographer and photographer who's worked with me for the past 4 years, unbelievable, who come in and they know the angles that I want. They know how to work around me as I do my thing, capturing all that content. And then it's a part of storytelling as well, whether it's through the brand, who I am as a personality, being Scottish, or where I'm from, or what I'm trying to do as a lifestyle, working as a family business. All this ties in to storytelling, and there's a common thread throughout what I do. But with that as well, say it's for, I don't know, Champions League final, for instance, and then they'll say, listen, can you come out to Istanbul and do your thing in front of a larger audience? So before you know it, they've got a final product, they've got a marketing campaign, they've got a part of that is a social media, they've got a live art performance. So there's 4 different tangibles already as part of the one package, and that's what we're providing to these clients across the world. So much more value, and that is why a lot of these things and opportunities are happening as well. And it's taken us, like I mentioned before, it's taken us places we could only dream of as well, which is crazy.
So what gives you the greatest pleasure in your art?
For me, it's creating a lifestyle that works for me and my family. So I'm going to go deep here. I'm going to go deep and tell you a little personal story.
Okay.
So when I first met my wife, about a year in, I was chatting to my mother-in-law, and we were in the kitchen, and I was asking her, my wife Ali, so I said to the mother-in-law, sorry, what did Ali want to be when she was older? What's her dream career and stuff like that? And she said all she wanted to be was a mummy. All she wanted to be. And that stuck with me in the sense of obviously having a kid, but creating a lifestyle to fulfill being like there for a little one as a full-time mum, all those kind of things. And that sat for me for years, and I thought to myself, I'm going to create a lifestyle for us as a family. Whatever that would be, whether it's through design, but ultimately it was through the art. And then when I became the artist, it all just kind of came to fruition in terms of the plan. So this has all been 10 years in the making. It sounds really weird and airy-fairy, but it really is. And what I've been able to do is bring my wife into the business, who is incredibly smart. She's come into the business as managing director, coming from being a mental health nurse in the local prison. Totally different environment, as you can imagine. But she is, like I mentioned, so incredibly smart. But she came into this industry and she went headfirst in terms of learning how to run a business, connecting with people, networking. And I think the most amazing thing about this industry is that people have opened her up with open arms and says, we can help here. She learned over here. But what she's done in her business is transformed it into us looking professional, basically. But what I'm getting at is the joy I get out of this is I get to take my little girl to nursery on my time, and I pick her up from school or nursery every single day. And that's all I ever wanted to do. That's it. And then and we're fortunate in a position because it's just me and Ali, that when we travel the world, we take our little girl with us, and opportunities that we could only dream about when we were younger. And then for me, that is the greatest joy. I'm living it. That's the dream for me, and I'm doing it. To be able to do that and bring it to fruition, and at the same time, I'm painting on stuff. I'm having fun. I love it, but at the same time, I put a huge amount of hard work into it. I'm the hardest working person you'll ever meet. I genuinely believe that. I'm so driven at the same time, and it's all part of my life experience. Footballer, all that stuff is played into our part now. But that's the greatest joy, is to be able to create a platform and a lifestyle for our family, but also bring other people along the way and helping others. And I think probably, I know I'm going side tangent again here. I think I keep going side tangent in this story, in this interview. Especially coming from Scotland, is flying the flag and showing others that you can chase your own dreams and you can make things happen. If you dream about being a photographer and making a career out of it, you can do it. Because this wee guy from Greenock, if anyone's listening, can do it, then anybody can do it. And that's something I'm proud of and I'm able to do. And there's been people who have come from my hometown who are successful actors, musicians, footballers, all those kind of things. And I used to go look at them and go, if they can do it, I can do it in my field. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm hoping the next generation or older generation, whatever generation, can do that.
No, that's brilliant. It is brilliant that you've got your life balance. It's exactly what you wanted it to be. And of course, the fact that you're in art and you're not in football doesn't mean that it's all going to be over by the age of 32. You
Exactly. It's just kicking off for me, and I'm now 36. So I'm relatively, what people keep saying to me is I'm relatively young in the art field. And I'm like, great. But I get like, I see where this journey takes me, and I see a total evolution of where my work could go. And we're having discussions now of like wrapping buildings now, and with my artwork, digital world, immersive experience that you can touch a screen, that acrylic fusion, and it touches into different colors and stuff. Amazing stuff. And we're actually working with a big brand actually in terms of helping school kids and inspiring young children to pursue creative industry careers, which I'm really passionate about doing. But the working with the choreographer in New York, like, I've never thought of that, but even 6 months ago. But now I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do this, and then see where that takes us as well. But it's a wonderful place to be, but it's, as much as there's highs, there's many lows as well, and pushing and believing what you're doing and believing in the process as well. It's all part of the journey, and I think it's really important to say that, because you're probably listening to this and going, "Oh, this guy's perfect. He's done everything. There's all this stuff." But fuck it, there's been lots of tough situations. Same with yourself, Darren. I bet there's been plenty of times where it's been challenging for you, but you've persevered and you kept going because you believed in what you were doing. You believed in your purpose, believed in your why. And then when you go through it, you go, it's so much sweeter and it's so much more enjoyable because you've been through that tough stage. And that's how, like, I always make sure to be grateful for every opportunity that comes my way and enjoy it rather than thinking about the next thing. Sit in that moment, enjoy it for what it is, because you can be on tomorrow.
Speaking about next things, obviously you've worked with Rangers, which is the pinnacle. But is there any brand or project that you would love to be able to work on?
There is. I would love to paint on an aeroplane. That would be like, like the tail fin of an aeroplane.
Yeah.
Fusion work down that. If you've seen the Porsche cars that I've done, imagine that translated onto an aeroplane. That'd be one of them. And then also, like, I love the idea of doing the Sphere in Las Vegas as well.
Oh, yeah.
But what? This is the idea. You know how U2 play in the stage inside in front of those thousands of people? I've got this dream of me, whether it's a football, painting the football live on stage, but as I start pouring paint, the roof is digitally animated and the paint goes flowing down the digital screen, and everyone inside, on the outside, can see a big acrylic fusion sphere happening in real time. Maybe I should do it with you two. Maybe you two play and I'm painting at the same time. Like, I always go for these crazy, way out there, like, dream opportunities, and I think, why not? Because I managed to do it already. I know the strategy behind it, and it's not just a case of dreaming about it, it's putting in the action. And what I mean by that, like LinkedIn, for instance, like, fantastic place to make things happen and connect with people and show people your work. Look what I'm capable of doing. This is my idea. It could influence your platform. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you plant a seed and a year later it comes to fruition, 2 years. Even conversation now we're having happened 3 years ago. So I'm getting back to that thing about putting yourself out there. You just never know who's watching.
Well, on that bombshell, as we are pretty much out of time, for anyone who is watching this or listening to this thinking, do you know what, I own an airline. I would really love a tail fin to be painted, or I'm the manager of U2. I'd quite like to get Craig in to do that. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you? You
can get me by email, which is hello@craig.black. You can view my work at craig.black. And on Instagram is @_Craig Black. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm sure if you type in Craig Black, visual artist, I think I'm the only one.
You do show up, and if you just Google Craig Black artist, you show up as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're easy to find. Craig, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I can't wait to see what happens with the choreographer in New York as well. I'll be looking out for that one.
Thank you very much, Darren. I've had a thoroughly pleasurable time doing this. Thank you.
All right, cheers, mate.